Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nick Crespo, your host for today and forever. And welcome back to another episode of the Lawyers in the Making podcast, where it is my job to focus on the unique journeys to the law and law school of professionals in the legal field and law students. Let's talk about what we're doing today, because today we have another extraordinary guest. He's a Temple University graduate and currently works as the founder of LegalFenix. He previously led sales and customer success at Mockingbird Marketing, and he's held past positions as a director of business development at Pro Unlimited and as an AE of sales and marketing at Thomas Reuters Fine Law. Excited to have him on the podcast today, Mr. Ron Latz. Welcome to the podcast. How are we doing today? Before going any further, I'd like to say a quick word about the sponsor of this podcast, Rhetoric. Back in episode 25, I had the privilege of having the CEO, Luke Yingling, on the podcast, and ever since that episode, fell in love with the product. Rhetoric takes user briefs and motions and compares them against the text of opinions written by judges to identify ways to tailor their arguments to better persuade the judges handling their cases. Rhetoric's focus on persuasion and helps users find new ways to improve their odds of success through more persuasive arguments. Know more, win more. I was able to see a demo of the product, and its cutting-edge technology and fascinating features make for a product I am proud to sponsor, and further shows the new digital era the field of law has been entering thus far on my journey doing this podcast. If you decide to book a demo, let them know Nate sent you. Be sure to check them out in the show notes below or at userhetoric.com. One word, userhetoric.com. Now, back to the show.
What a welcome, Nate. Thank you so much. Appreciate you extending the invite and looking forward to the conversation, my friend.
Of course, I am just as excited for this conversation. I'm ready to get into it. But Ron, before we get started, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, as you alluded to, I am the founder and owner of LegalFenix, which is a strategic consulting, advisory, and fractional CMO firm that's focused exclusively and working with lawyers and law firms. And essentially my job is to help them safeguard their legal marketing investments. There's a lot of shenanigans that kind of runs around the legal marketing space with some misaligned vendors, partners, and other solution providers. So I do my best to ensure that the wool is not pulled over their eyes and they are investing in marketing that actually works.
Well, as heard from the introduction, you are indeed a Temple University graduate, never went to law school yourself, and this is just a wonderful episode because it just exemplifies that further message that I love to talk about, that I talk about every single episode, that there is no straight path to law or law school. There is only your unique journey, and Ron certainly has a unique journey into the law. Now, we started Temple University. Now, you were there, you're doing marketing, you were doing business, and then you went on to become an AE of business development at Xerox. Now, my question here, and I'm interested to find out this answer, is were you ever interested in law? Did you ever think about law school before going into this position at Xerox?
Well, straight out of Temple, I actually jumped into finance and got my Series 6, 63 life accident health insurance, and was, on the path to going for my 7, and thought that I was going to kind of sell life insurance and financial products and things like that. I quickly realized that there was, no base pay with many of those positions. I had a lot of student loans that I needed to take care of, and I was hoping to get rid of them as quickly as possible. So I had transitioned. I was fortunate enough, my best friend that I grew up playing hockey with, we're still friends, put my resume in at Xerox. I ended up getting an interview, landing that job, and it was an incredible opportunity. I was basically selling like the hardware devices as well as some services for the public sector. So universities, government, municipalities, things like that, which was something that I didn't realize how valuable it was going to be throughout the rest of my career, given this was at a time when organizations really invested in their sales force. So they didn't just throw me to the wolves. They didn't just give me a bag and say, here's a quota, go and hit it. I trained for upwards of 6 months. It was broken out into 4 different phases. They used to have a huge campus down in Leesburg, Virginia, where you would do like C-level executive role playing and learn how to uncover the pain, identify stakeholders, and basically solution-based, value-based type of selling. So, at that point, I was looking for another challenge, and I fell into a role through another friend who got me an interview at Reuters, FineLaw, which is their legal marketing agency. And that's really the background. I never intended to fall into the legal community. I really didn't have any interest early on in my career to go to law school, but I really fell in love with the fact that the job that I had was helping individuals find people, lawyers and law firms, help them through some of the most difficult times in their career. And I've pretty much stayed tied to the legal community, legal marketing and sales ever since.
Something I love to talk about in this podcast whenever I can is talk about my time at ShopRite, because I had a great time there. I built up those soft skills, having to talk to all these people and let them know where the avocados are or whatever other fruit or vegetable they needed working in the produce department. And it was very, very helpful for building my soft skills. So can you talk about how valuable that time at Xerox was in building those skills, and what sort of skills should people try to build when they get in those sales positions or any of those little jobs like being a waiter, being a busboy, just being around people like that? What are some skills that people should build up in order to be successful, just like yourself?
Well, I think as far as from a sales and business development lens, what was most challenging and unique working at Xerox, specifically in the public sector, was that, and I didn't even realize this going in, everything that I was selling was done on a state contract. These were already pre-negotiated prices for the devices, for your color clicks, your black and white prints, your cartridges, right? So I was walking into a lot of these meetings. They already knew how much it was going to cost them. So I had to really adjust because Xerox was the industry leader. There are plenty of other competitors and channel partners out there that sold the same product that I was selling at a more affordable price. So I learned very quickly the difference between price and cost, or total cost of ownership. Whereas the initial price tag on our devices was significantly higher, but the total cost of ownership over the lifetime of that device would ultimately be cheaper for them. So value-based selling was something that I learned very quickly. I could not just go and say, we are the cheapest in the market, or we are the fastest in the market, whatever it may be. I really had to focus on that. I also got a very deep look into working with individuals, again, that are serving somebody else, right? I'm working with boards of educations, colleges, universities, right? Academia. They are making sure that every single dollar, hopefully, every single dollar that is spent is to the benefit of the students, of the faculty. So I had to keep that top of mind anytime that I was walking into, whether it was the procurement office, the marketing, the print shop, right? Creatives, all of that, all those stakeholders, right? They all had a different appreciation and a need and pain points. So uncovering that very early in my career, I think, lent to some of the success that I have had in not just being focused on myself and my needs, but really taking a client-centered approach.
So you say something that I love to talk about as well. We're talking about a lot of things I love to talk about here, Ron. But one of the things I talk about is value. I love that word. I love the different ways people can interpret it. And so, how would you, in your own words, describe value, and how do you look, or what suggestions do you have for people in order to deliver that value to their clients and to find those pain points? What sort of things do you do in order to find that?
Well, I mean, you hit it right on its head, Nate. Like, value is very much defined differently based on the individual, right? So I learned very quickly, for example, selling a home, right? Like, its value is how much someone is actually willing to pay for it, right? It doesn't matter what you see on Zillow, or what you think the market is going to demand, or what the comps are, right? So I think that I take a look at that on a case-by-case basis whenever I'm approached by a lawyer or a law firm and they want to understand how to kind of navigate the complexities of the legal marketing landscape. I try to bring it all the way back to the beginning. define what success means to them. They are the ones that are going to tell me what is most important to them, to their firm. Once we define it and we understand what our goals and objectives are, I try to put myself in a position to align their marketing strategy and the associated tactics to help us achieve those goals. So one firm might define value as something completely different from another. So that's something that's constantly changing. I really try to avoid any type of templated or cookie cutter type of approach, because that's going to, really put the firm at risk. If I just try to go and copycat or run another playbook from another firm, I've really got to make sure that I'm doing exactly what it is that they need. I'm trying to help them build their own firm and not somebody else's.
Now, I'm interested in this playbook you talk about because it's a very common theme. One of my favorite people ever, Alex Hormozy, that's how he built himself up, how he built originally his first business was doing gym launch, was launching gyms, helping people build clientele, build revenue. And he sort of figured out through building his own gyms that, okay, I have a playbook that can be parallel to any gym on this planet to help them build more clientele. What sort of playbook do you look to run, and that helps you build your business and helps your clients achieve the success that they need?
When I'm onboarding any new client or a new firm kind of enters into the fold with LegalFenix, I always start at the beginning and the foundation. Again, we just talked about defining success. What does that mean for you and your firm? I want to understand the goals and the objectives. What is the marketing strategy? Let's talk about your current investments and the channel allocation. Where are the dollars being spent? What are you trying to accomplish? Who is your ideal client, right? It might seem like table stakes, but a lot of firms that I initially start to speak with, they don't have a marketing plan necessarily written down. They don't understand where all the dollars are being spent. They might not have an appreciation or at least an understanding of how difficult it is to do some of these things. And, I try to illuminate that for them. Another big thing is going to be their infrastructure, their intake, and their client services. Whenever a firm immediately will blame lead volume, lead quality, or kind of point the fingers at marketing, I really try to just take a step back, understand if there are any gaps in the intake process, in their sales process, in their sales operation. I want to make sure that once the client is retained, that their client services are really nailed down. Because if those two pieces are in any type of disarray, and you continue to throw additional dollars into marketing channels, what you're really doing is investing at poor first impressions at scale. Because that person that is either mistreated, there's a gap in the intake process, the lines of communication are choked, they're not being responded to, emails are just getting routed to spam, you have no idea, and there's people out there that are waiting for you to respond to them. That is a very poor first step in that relationship. So the last thing you want is to not even get the at bat, but have someone go and leave a poor review because you stumbled out of the gate. You didn't respond to them. You didn't follow up. There was no meeting confirmation set. The Zoom link wasn't included, whatever it may be. There's so many things and pieces that could unfortunately go wrong. Get that in order. Get that house in order first before you go spend, whether it's 1,000, 5, 10, 30, or 50 grand a month in a variety of marketing channels. Make sure that that's taken care of first. So I don't know if I would consider it a quote unquote playbook, but it's something that I make sure that I'm trying to do with my clients before we even get into the nitty gritty of understanding the marketing strategy, the competitive landscape, and all that other stuff that we'll eventually get there, but we got to get the foundation locked down before.
Well, one of my favorite things that I've learned over time, especially being a philosophy major, as terrible as that sounds for everyone, everyone's probably like shrieking in their chairs, like, "Oh my God, it's a philosophy major." But I mean, if you've been around the podcast enough, I'm going to talk about philosophy. But I always found that first principles, working from first principles, working from those foundational principles that you could go forward from is so important, because when you get those down, you could sort of experiment and be able to work within those principles. One of my favorite people ever, Elon Musk, I have his little thing from his book where he talks about the sort of things that he gives to employees, the sort of processes that he gives to employees in order to increase efficiency. It always comes back to finding those first principles. Where are you starting from? So we know where we have to go from there and we can build out that path. Now, I want to return to your experiences. You were the director of business development at Pro Unlimited after being at FindLaw. And what I have to ask is, you had eventually went on your own. You started Mockingbird Marketing. Why did you decide to go out on your own? Start exploring into your own sort of entrepreneurship experience? Because as I've talked about previously on this podcast, people have that itch that sort of, I need to go out on my own. I need to do it myself. So why did you decide doing it?
Well, I didn't found or start Mockingbird. That was where I led sales and customer success. It was just a continuation of my desire to stay within the legal community and continue serving, that community. The decision to go out on my own was one that was actually made 7 or 8 years ago when I had left Reuters and gone on to Pro, now known as Magnet. I had clients reach out to me just to say, and this is a year plus later, hey, Ron, do I renew? Do I buy this new marketing program? Do I buy this ad? Should I consider redesigning my website? Hey, here's another marketing proposal. Can you take a look at it? Like, I don't really know the right decision to make. And that was when I just realized, like, the relationships that I had forged during my time at Reuters, it was a lot stronger than I had even thought. So in order for me to, pretty much be able to cash and deposit those checks, I needed to spin up a business, right? The initial business was called Tetra Peak. That's because I was focusing on pretty much sales, marketing, social, and technology, right? Bring you to the peak on these 4 specific areas that I happen to have a lot of subject matter expertise on, specifically with lawyers. I had managed and run that business for a couple of years. A couple of my clients had engaged with Mockingbird Marketing in a variety of different ways. So I thought that was going to be like a great partnership there. And, over the past 3 years, there was still just the desire to really go at it on my own. I am not a marketing agency. I don't sell SEO. I don't sell advertising. I don't build websites or design them, right? What I really enjoy is the strategic side of things, helping them understand what it is they are buying, who's doing what, how it's being done, how long it should take, what it should cost. That's where I feel like I thrive. And also, I enjoy kind of putting myself in between, like wedging myself directly in between the law firm and the agency, because I don't think that there's anyone else out there that is holding both sides accountable, right? Having worked for the largest or one of the largest legal marketing agencies in the country and helped build a boutique legal marketing agency, I've kind of seen the spectrum. I've sold marketing and advertising to lawyers. I've invested in marketing and advertising on behalf of lawyers, worked in big agency, small agency. Through my fractional and consulting work, somewhat worked in-house with lawyers. I just wanted to give this a shot because I think it's a gap in the market. And I think that a way that both sides can stop pointing fingers at each other, there's almost got to be a mediator. And I enjoy kind of setting and resetting those expectations, because I think when both sides are successful, that's when those relationships and engagements really flourish. Now, if the law firm is not holding up their end of the bargain, it's sometimes difficult for the agency to kind of tell them that. I'm in a position where I've got to tell the law firm what they need to hear and not what they want to hear. Now, the same goes with the agency. If the agency isn't holding up their end of the bargain, right? Like, there's many times where the law firm is going to place blame on that agency. Sometimes it's rightfully done so. Other times it's somewhat misplaced. So if I can help smooth those waters and really restore the trust in the solid agencies and ensure that the client, the law firm, is giving the agency what they need, whether it's access to information, whether it's closing the feedback loop, whatever it is, to help funnel that communication so that it becomes circular. That's where I think both sides really and ultimately are more successful.
Yeah, I think ultimately the best sentiment out of that is the fact to make it frictionless as humanly possible, to make it so effective and efficient that there is no closing of lines of communication. You hold that line of communication. It's that sales spirit. We talk about the sales spirit, but has to go along with it is building those relationships and building that clientele. Of course, I'm in my new apartment. I haven't announced this on my podcast, but I have a new roommate, Andrew. He actually works in sales. He sells spinal equipment for surgeries and overlooked surgeries. It's honestly, it's mind-bending sometimes when he's explaining to me what he's sort of doing with someone's spine of all things. So it's very impressive, and I had to shout him out there. But we talk about building relationships. How important has networking been for your career, and what tips do you have for people to build up that networking and get yourself out there?
Yeah, networking, business development, I mean, relationships, they require effort, right? They're two-way streets. They need to be nurtured. I think as long as you are putting yourself in a position where it's not entirely focused and self-centered and it's much more serving to the other, that's where those types of sales related activities are going to work best for you. Um, it's something that I've really hung my hat on for the past, 2 decades plus, even I remember as like a little kid helping out with like the little league concession stand, selling hot dogs and Cokes, or like in high school, even the really early years, like dialing for dollars, like helping raise money for the Fraternal Order of Police or the fire station or any other like charitable organizations, right? Like I always enjoyed doing that. Um, there are sales individuals out there that are like afraid of the phone. Like I love picking up the phone. I just think a conversation can just avoid so much miscommunication and things that get lost in translation. So that's likely why I continue to gravitate towards those types of sales and marketing roles throughout my career. It's just something that I like to do. So anyone out there that is looking to, take that type of approach to building a business, or as you go out and try to find jobs or opportunities for different roles, like start as early as you can. Develop those inroads and relationships now. Be eager and curious to understand how there's many different paths. Ask questions. Just don't make it about yourself. And I think that that's going to be the best way that you can differentiate yourself in a world where most people are just concerned about how it impacts them.
I love what you said there about the lemonade stand and working at the Little League. And I want to take a deeper dive in that because it is clearly your passion is sales. That's what you do, marketing, personal branding, all that type of stuff. And working in the Little League, raising money for the police, it all counts as reps, which is the modern day catharsis, as Aristotle would talk about. He's been talking about it for ages. Now people talk about reps. Nope, nope. Listen, no shame to that. I like the reps thing because I can parallel it to the gym whenever I want. But working at those sort of small little jobs when you were younger still count as reps, still count as something you were passionate about. How did you find your strengths in terms of finding that passion, what you're best at? How did you sort of hone down what you're good at specifically?
Just like to try a lot of things, trial and error. You fall on your face, you get back up. You know, the little league stuff. I was raised in a house where like my father, given his current, not current, but growing up as a kid, like they didn't have a lot of money, right? So he always had to work for whatever he got, right? He lived next door to an auto body shop, like as a young teenager, like that was his first job. He paid his way through private high school, right? And then was fortunate enough to, uh, you know, continue to pay for his way through college. And that's just something he had always instilled in me. So there's always been a part of me, like since a very young age, whether it was working at that concession stand or I did like umpiring for baseball because I played baseball as a young kid, and then as I gravitated more towards hockey, like officiating or running camps or things like that. If there were things that I wanted to buy, I was working for it, right? And it wasn't just having those official jobs as I was young, like mowing the lawn or help mowing the neighbors' lawns, or like just trying to earn a couple bucks. So it's always been something that's been in my DNA as a very young age. And now like working, I just truly enjoy what it is that I do. So the fact that I've had those values, and the fact that I've been very fortunate and lucky in my life to have an incredibly supportive family that was able to put me through private high school and help me pay for some of those college loans before I graduated. Like I don't discount the fact of how lucky that I am, and I just try to always be grateful of that. Finding the things that I like, I think, have been relatively easy. The things that I don't enjoy doing, I just don't do. The things that I love, I go all in on, and I become very, very obsessed with them, whether it's, sports and ice hockey, or, reading, or working on the business. I really enjoy building. So that's something that I gravitate towards now. And it's hard to even say on some days that I am working, because I really do enjoy it. I love what I'm doing now.
Well, I love to hear that. It's always my favorite thing to hear when people say that they enjoy their job more than anything, that they get so much joy from it, so much fulfillment from it. But going back to your point about wanting to buy things, I remember back in high school, this is so terrible, but I used to do like surveys for money. And I would do like 30 of them in a day, and it would be like $1.50 I'm getting for them because I want some stupid well, it's not a stupid Xbox game. It's always worth my penny because I'm playing it till the sun comes up the next day. But just those little things like that, I really noticed throughout my life. Like, yeah, no, I did do those things, and you look back and you could sort of map out exactly where your passions are, where you love to do those things, where you're chasing that bag, as they say nowadays. But let's talk about LegalFenix, the new LegalFenix. I'm proud to have you on this podcast here today so we could talk about your new endeavor. So can you talk about LegalFenix, what you're doing there? What's this new company all about?
Yeah, so I publicly announced last week, but I've been at it for quite some time. It's just been the evolution of, the first company that I had incorporated, and it just through rebranding and rename, it was time to kind of unleash it out into the world. It's really set up as a consulting and advisory and fractional CMO shop. So half my business is me consulting with lawyers and law firms who are either trying to make sense of their marketing, trying to update their strategy, trying to ensure consistency across channels, whether they are evaluating alternative vendors, partners, solutions, marketing tactics, campaigns, whatever it may be. Everything from ensuring that they are properly invested, that the investments are working as they should, or that they are on the path to success, right? Those conversations are pretty much dominated by evaluating, auditing, and ensuring that the performance is where it should be, and whether or not a change should be made. I will also, like sometimes there are firms that I work with that are trying to build a function in-house. So ensuring that whether they're bringing on a marketing coordinator or a marketing director in-house, like what are the roles and responsibilities? What is the scope of that individual's, daily responsibilities to make sure that the firm is getting what it is that they need? And if they are taking a DIY approach, or they have other outsourced relationships, like how do all those pieces work together? The biggest difference between that and a fractional engagement is that very much like lawyers, right? I'm giving them that advice. I'm providing that roadmap. What they do with it is in their hands, right? There's no real implementation, execution, or minimal deployment, if you will. But the primary service of LegalFenix is the fractional CMO offering. And that's much more involved. There's a lot of implementation and execution involved with that, helping law firms, build the internal team, managing those internal resources, helping manage the vendor relationships, those vendor contracts, negotiation. But again, as we talked about earlier in the call, at the CMO level, what we're really doing is ensuring that there is some strategic leadership for the marketing operation at the firm, right? Do we have alignment between the goals and objectives and the marketing strategy and the associated tactics? Are they working together? Is there cohesive messaging and positioning across specific channels? Do all the other vendors that they work with, right? If they are working with an ads agency, an SEO agency, a social media, like whatever it is, does the left hand know what the right is doing? Are those lines of communication open? And, I'm able to kind of step in because I understand the lingo and the language to have basically a translation of what the firm is looking to do. And then I can speak to those subject matter experts at each of those shops to ensure that we're all on the same page and rowing in the right direction, in the same direction. So that's kind of the service offering in a nutshell. I don't play too much in the big law space. Nothing against it. It's just not where the majority of my clients, or any of my clients for that matter, have been right now. Maybe they came from there and started their own shop. I don't do a lot of work on the defense side. Not that I can't. I just choose to work with more consumer-based plaintiff practices. And the practice area pretty much runs the gamut. Everything from PI, criminal family, immigration, estate planning. I think right now I'm not really working with any real estate or bankruptcy firms, but I think I've crossed most of the others off of the list. So I like to keep myself on my toes. And again, there's no one playbook that works for all of these firms or all these types of practices. So that's the stuff that I love. I love the challenge. And most consumers kind of navigate their entire lives, trying to avoid using a lawyer, right? No one wants to be injured. No one wants to get into some criminal trouble. We don't want to lose all of our money. And it's very unfortunate when we lose a loved one and have to kind of do some planning around our estate and things like that. So I think legal marketing lends itself to a uniqueness in that way, where we're trying to help people let consumers know that they exist, even though they're trying to avoid them for the most part in their entire life.
I find it outrageously ironic that you have to translate for the lawyers, just like the lawyers themselves translate to their clients all the legalese that goes into it, that even lawyers need some translating in terms of marketing and personal branding and social media and all that fun stuff. But this is more of a self-interested question, because I've been getting into some marketing and some personal branding and some advertisements, seeing what I could do with that. What are some key metrics that you look out for and that you give to any of your clients in terms of if it's working or if it's not working? What are some key metrics you look out for?
Well, when I'm looking at that type of data or key metrics, I got to make sure that they make sense based off their goals, right? So if someone is only looking for retained clients, monitoring or tracking, your newsletter or YouTube channel subscriber increases is not going to be the right metric, right? So, in your case, Nate, right? You have put yourself out there. You have started a podcast. You have made yourself known within the legal community. And there are a couple of different things that you can kind of monitor or evaluate as far as like the success or the growth of the podcast. Maybe you are looking at listens and views of the podcast or reshares of that podcast across different channels. Maybe you are looking for, as you recently acquired, a sponsor for the podcast, right? And that would be a target that you might have every, who knows, 6, 12, 18 months. Like, I'm making it up, but that could be something that you are maybe looking for in the future. Maybe this spins off into the lawyer in the making newsletter, right? And you want to continue driving newsletter subscriptions. So you do certain things, whether it's through social or sharing on LinkedIn, the fact that, hey, guess what? Now all of our transcripts are added and you can get little nuggets of insights from all of the guests directly from the newsletter. There's a lot of different things that you can kind of spin off. Maybe you want to start the law firm, right? And you want to go into law. And now you have an audience of people that say, who is this guy that has spoken to 30, 40, 50 different lawyers that kind of navigated this path, right? As you continue to grow and evolve, right, those metrics, the data points, those KPIs are going to change as well. They are going to be dynamic, but I won't give any more of a runaround here around many times, right? Tying those goals and those metrics to revenue or financial based outcomes are what most of my clients are really looking for. The primary ones are going to be average cost per lead, average cost per qualified opportunity. What is our client acquisition cost, right? What are the conversions between each stages of our funnel? If they are launching a newsletter, what is subscriber growth looking like? If they're launching a YouTube channel, what is subscriber growth looking like? It really will depend upon the strategy, the goals, the objectives, the marketing channels that you are in, and then you make sure that those metrics are tied to your firm and not tracking something else that really isn't designed to achieve the outcome that you're looking to achieve.
Well, I mean, Ron, you're giving me great suggestions right now. I'm writing them all down. Maybe there may be a newsletter coming on the way. Who knows at this point? I love that you give me the 6, 12, 18 months. I was like, wow, I'm really in this for the long haul anyway. But as I say at the beginning of every episode, I am your host for today and forever. I really mean it. I really, really mean it. Forever and ever until I'm dead. But we're down to our final 5 questions, Ron. The first of the questions is, I talk about the past few episodes. It's always been the 5th question. That was an established 5th question. But I talk about throughout the journey of this podcast is that the law is moving in a certain direction. Just like yourself, people are investing more into business development, marketing, sales, all of that fun stuff. But they're also investing in new technologies and softwares, AI products, any sort of that stuff. So this is the tech stack question per se. What does your tech stack look like, and what sort of suggestions would you have for lawyers or really anyone for these new software or AI technologies that you're currently using?
Oh man, I really do enjoy tech, and I try to avoid shiny object syndrome as much as I can. My tech stack is pretty simple, Nate. I run the entire business on Google Workspace. I leverage a CRM, which I don't know how anybody can run a business without one, even as we're 3 resources, 3 people right now at LegalFenix. So I can't get anything done without a CRM. That's where I have all my tasks. That's where I have my reminders. That's where I have all my relationships, like all the information that I need to make sure I keep top of mind. Talk about business development, right? Like that is my central source of truth for all of my relationships from a sales and marketing perspective, right? Like my website then ties into the CRM for form submissions, all that stuff. As a marketer, I obviously am using all of the Google tools like GA4, Search Console, Tag Manager. I am using marketing tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush, Moz. Obviously, ChatGPT, I have the paid version. That's something that I help with, like content ideation, so I can consistently like keep my content fresh and just get new ideas. I've LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is a primary marketing channel. I do not rely on LinkedIn for lead gen. I rely on LinkedIn for things just like this, right? Like this is how you and I started our relationship. A little bit of mutual reciprocated support here. I love that you were doing. We jumped on a call. We talked about it. And look, here we are now. I'm sure there's many others that I'm missing, but I really do try to keep it as simple as I possibly can. My clients, it runs the gamut, but most of the tech that they are using in order to track the effectiveness of their not only their marketing campaigns, but their client service. The lion's share of them are using some sort of call tracking, dynamic call tracking software, whether it's CallRail or What Converts. You have intake management software tools. There's a ton of legal focused tools, right? Whether it's a Lead Docket, a Clio Grow, a Lawmatics. Then you have the HubSpots, which I'm completely infatuated with. I never thought that I would go off of anything outside of Salesforce, and I really do enjoy using that system, even though I'm not using it for my business right now. It is an incredibly powerful tool. Outside of the intake management softwares, you have your case management providers, your file binds, your Clio manages, your smoke balls, your Litifys. Like that. There's so many of them out there now. It's just you got to use what's best for you. You have to use the systems that are going to be adopted by your firm, right? Like it's garbage in, garbage out. Data hygiene is super important with all of these types of systems. So if you don't use it, you're not going to get all the benefits from it. Your reporting is going to be wildly inaccurate. And if then you're making decisions based off of that data, you're going to find yourself in some hot water. So AI is now being thrown on top of everything. So I just caution them to verify, right? Like edit, review before you take any of that information and try to put it out in the world. Avoid putting personal information in there as much as humanly possible. Now, some of these tools have started to roll out, their AI modules, if you will, which I think is going to be, game changing. And the firms that really embrace it and adopt it, they're going to be the ones that are leading the pack in the market, right? So don't neglect it. I think you embrace it as much as you can, and you find ways that it can work for your firm, improve the productivity and efficiency, right? Developing standard operating procedures, coming up with new marketing titles for webinars or YouTube videos, repurposing your own content, getting new ideas to write additional content. You can use these tools. You can use these image generators to really help expedite what took days or weeks into simple hours and minutes. It's an incredibly powerful tool. And what we have seen today, we haven't even scratched the surface. Like what we're going to be looking at this podcast in maybe 3 months, right? And it's going to be completely different. So that's just the pace at which it is moving. So just don't get left behind.
I love you said data hygiene. I've never heard that in my entire life, and I'm gonna steal it from you now. I'm a lover of ChatGPT as well. I use it all the time. I've been playing with it for like 5 years now. So I've got it down pat, I feel. But just like you said, it's constantly changing. There's new features, there's new questions you could ask, there's new ways you can frame things. I just love it more than anything well, not anything in life, but I love it a lot. I use it a lot. It's one of my favorite things in the world. But for fourth question here, live on the Lawyers in the Making podcast, Ron Latz, what are your book recommendations for people? It doesn't have to be about the legal industry, but just some of your favorite books, something you give a gift to someone.
The past 2 books that I read were Buy Back Your Time and Unreasonable Hospitality. Buy Back Your Time is how I just saved upwards at this point, anywhere between 5 and 15 hours a week. I knew that I had to really, pull myself out of some of the administrative burdens that come along with running and managing a company. So I have an incredible executive assistant who I've been working with now for about 2 months. They save me so much time. They have helped me in ways that I couldn't even imagine, right? Like delegating some of that stuff. And I'm very fortunate that they take the lead. They're very proactive. They're incredibly good at what they do. So that was a book that I not only read, I listened to on tape. I bought it so that I could just tear up the margins, highlight everything, and really it changed how I manage my inbox. It changed how I look at strategizing to grow and scale my business, right? You're not hiring for growth. You hire to buy back your time. So what are the things that I don't like doing that are low value that I can take off of my plate that somebody else would really enjoy or have no problem doing. Unreasonable Hospitality, great book, not legal focused, but it talks about the rise of 11 Madison Park and how they became eventually the number one rated restaurant in the world. I'm forgetting the year, 2016, 2017, maybe. Please, don't quote me on that, but it was really a really refreshing take. Like a lot of business books regurgitate the same information over and over, and you cherry pick some of the best parts of it and try to incorporate it into your daily life or your business. this just looked at it from a different lens. And, I lived in Hoboken, so I was right outside of Manhattan for a dozen years. I love the restaurant scene and like trying new places. So like I knew most of the spots that the book was talking about, and just like hearing how they literally wanted to make their service and their hospitality, like it is absurd. It is unreasonable what they were doing and how they changed their business. So I've tried to take that approach. I'm in a service-based business as well. So I try to take that approach and beg, borrow, and steal whatever I can and incorporate that into my delivery model as much as possible. From a sales lens, I'm a huge Anthony Iannarino guy. I love The Lost Art of Closing. If you're looking for, if you're just getting into sales, like um, The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need, which was with the first one that he wrote, like just a classic, a great book. And then some of the other books that I think that should be staples in everyone's collection, like Never Split the Difference, is a great book. I'm looking at my shelf here. Some of the others I just recently read, obviously Awesome and Sales Pitch by April Dunford. Really solid books about, obviously Awesome is much more about like messaging and positioning, and Sales Pitch, where most sales books talk about the sales process, prospecting, managing your list. This book really, I haven't read any other book that really dives into the actual presentation and pitch and telling that story. And someone that's in marketing, like I love the storytelling part of all of this. So I recommend all those.
Yeah, those are all lovely book recommendations. I always feel the best books are the ones that can parallel from industry to industry or life experience to life experience. Just like how Unreasonable Hospitality talked about a restaurant, you can parallel it to your legal CMO fractional LegalFenix, and I as well can transfer it and parallel it to whatever I'm doing in my life. I have no idea. I do a lot of things sometimes, but things like that, books like that, those are always my favorite. And like you said, the business books more often than not are just regurgitating. I always had the toughest times with the business books. So I'm like, I've read this already, and like another three other books. That's why I like philosophy though. I gotta hold on to every word. But third to last question here, Ron. What are the types of things you consume, not food, on a daily basis? Either that be through social media, so X, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Reddit, Substack, any podcasts you listen to that you really enjoy. What is crossing the transom of Ron's mind on a daily basis?
It's funny. I posted today on LinkedIn admitting that I have a problem, and I listen to too many legal marketing podcasts, but I pretty much run the gamut there and listen to those just because I'm really interested in what other law firms are really doing in order to be successful. Some are interview style, some are not, but they always lend some sort of value or insight. So I'm usually checking out the majority of those. Some non-legal stuff like Exit 5 podcast, Revenue Vitals, which was previously State of Demand Gen, but either way, like there are the non-legal industry productions out there that I really want to keep a pulse on, because it's those other industries that the legal community can benefit from, kind of taking some of those pieces and incorporating it into their business. And then if I'm not listening to a podcast or a book on tape, I'm kind of cruising, listening to some music if I'm out on a run or working out, right? That's just something to keep the blood flowing and pumping.
You've made a terrible mistake. Now I have to ask you, what kind of music are you listening to on a daily basis? How about that question?
Oh man, I don't want to. People are gonna just drop off here. Like I'm a metalhead, man. Outside of that, like I'll listen to all types of music. Right now, I'm completely obsessed with some of the new Ocean's 8 Alaska. Their drummer has their own solo album. So if you don't have an appreciation for some of the heavier screaming vocals, this is all instrumental. And I mean, it's very technical, but like it's really solid. Um, I dabbled in playing piano in a previous life with like an indie rock turned metal band. So like I love just piano or classical piano. Like I listen to all of it. I just have a great appreciation for music and musicians. So any type of music, I pretty much dance and house music really isn't my cup of tea, but I can appreciate it and I can appreciate what they do. So um, that's but if you were to see me running down the road, right, I'm listening to a metal track.
Well, I love to hear that. I'm a lover of music as well. If you ask anyone who goes to the University at Albany, what is Nate doing all the time? He always has his headphones and listening to music at all hours of the day, or podcasts, of course. But I love to hear that. I love music very much, just like yourself. Actually love classical music. I think it's very calming. It lets me work very hard. I love Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I listen to it like once a week. I think it's fantastic. But second to last question here. You got LegalFenix, you're doing all this work, but what does an ideal Friday night and Sunday morning look for Ron?
It's not going to be as exciting as you hope, Nate. I have two very young children. I have twin 5-year-olds. So these days, Friday night is usually it's going to be family night. The kids are going to have some sort of who knows, pizza party, birthday party, whatever it is. If we could stay home, like my wife and I really enjoy cooking, so that'll be a night where like fire up the grill, really just enjoy the moment of potential relaxation before, like right now, Saturday mornings, like both kids, we got t-ball practice, right? We go that for a couple hours. After that, it's lunch, and then into usually some sort of family time, right? I'm very fortunate that, their grandparents are close. I have sisters. My middle sister, younger, both younger sisters, but the middle sister also have a little niece that they love hanging out with, and then uh, kids love the outdoors. So like we'll go on hikes, we'll go on these walks and these adventures that they really enjoy. Um, that's what most weekends will look like. Now, like for example, last weekend we brought the kids, but like I got to go see like one of my best friends that I've known for 20 plus years. We played travel ice hockey together, and we stay in touch, and you get a couple of moments of alone time with your boys. But these days it's really just keeping the kids out of trouble, keeping them busy, and tiring them out so that they can go to bed at a reasonable hour. So you can at least have maybe an hour or so alone with the wife and just have some quiet or talk about the day, maybe even watch a show. But that sorry to let you down on a non-exciting probably
No,
Friday
no, no.
Friday evening stuff. I'm
It's
more interested. What are you doing out in Albany on a
oh,
Friday night, my man?
I don't think I can say that on the podcast, but
All right, all right. We'll keep that off.
I mean, usually it's not that crazy. I got friends around here, so I'm always hanging out with them. Usually listening to music or I'm playing FIFA. I love playing FIFA. I think I'm addicted at this point. But I have to ask, you're talking about cooking. I watch a lot of MasterChef. I'm obsessed with MasterChef. I'm on season 12 right now. It's riveting. No one tell me who won, please. I almost did it last night. I was looking at one of the guys who got tossed off, and I started going through their Instagram. So I was like, wait, I don't want to spoil because then it'll ruin the whole thing, and now I can't watch it. But what's like your favorite meal right now that you're cooking? So I can
Oh
steal it.
man. Um, okay, so I've two of them. One is I've kind of gotten away from the grill and I've been doing like the reverse sear into the oven with
Oh, yeah.
some steaks. Just get that cast iron puppy just scorching hot, get a nice crust, 2 or 3 minutes each side, pop it into the oven at 450, 500 for another 3 or 4 minutes. And I'll do, whether ribeye, sirloin, porterhouse, like I'll kind of do all that stuff. I'm usually responsible for the protein, and my wife just crushes the vegetables and the sides and all of that. And I recently did that with some uh, ahi tuna. So I'll get some sort of soy marinade. That fish will really take to the flavoring of it. So it's only a 20, 25 minute marinade at most. And if it's like a really strong sauce, like cut that down to 10 to 15. Again, cast iron, it's only like 2 minutes per side. And then I really enjoy spicy and hot food. So like I'll whip up some sort of wasabi, horseradish, like anything to give it a little bit of spice, a little bit of hotness, a little bit of flavor.
Needs that kick.
And yeah, get the kick. And then I mean you could serve that a couple of different ways. So if I'm doing it for like an actual meal, I'll do it in like larger slices and then put it into like a bowl with rice, like some sort of cucumber, edamame, some seaweed, if you will, or I'll do it as an appetizer and cut it into smaller pieces with like a little rice cracker, put that on there, drizzle the wasabi sauce on it, and it's just, that's just the new stuff. Other than that, like I'll do everything, all the other meats and fish. Like I'm the protein guy here, so like that's what I can speak to.
I mean, I feel like everyone's reverse searing nowadays. Even I will soon be reverse searing my steak soon enough, because I keep seeing it all over the place. I'm like, all right, I got to do it eventually. But those are great recommendations. That was just a personal interest question because I need some new foods to eat. I want to be a great chef. I know I'm not going to be, but at least I could try. But Ron, last question here. Do this at the end of every single episode. What are your words of wisdom for the aspiring law students, the current law students, and the legal professionals out there, and pretty much anyone?
I'm gonna focus on the law students just because of the title of this podcast, and it can be tough sledding when you're trying to go out, put yourself out there to find a job. Is do yourself a favor and follow Nate, because what you are doing, just the courage that it took to kind of go out, just start this thing from scratch, from nothing, throw up a podcast, proactively reach out like to individuals on LinkedIn, put yourself out there and just ask them the question to come talk and share their story. Manage all of this yourself. Like, you're not outsourcing it. You're bootstrapping it. You've got the mic there that I see. I don't know if any other guests were able to see how the sausage was made, but I had a little sneak peek before we started recording. You've got everything outlined. You're prepared, right? You're going out there. You're uncovering your own opportunities, right? So if anyone is trying to get a little bit more exposure or learn about something or wants to try, like, go and do it, right? Like, take a page out of your playbook and put yourself out there. Give it a shot. Then you'll know. If you like it, great, keep going, ride into it. If you hate it, now you know. Now you don't do it. But I think that that's something that people are told, like, this is what you should do, or this is what you have to do out of law school, and this is how you get a job. Like, go out, be curious, ask questions. I think that you can attest to the fact that, like, people are willing to help. People are willing to lend an ear or kind of join and share their experiences. And I'm sure at some point, maybe there will be an episode or maybe that newsletter where you could talk about, like, all the benefits that this is, all the relationships that it's resulted in, possibly job opportunities. Who knows? I think that there would be a lot of benefit that they could have by giving you a follow, smashing that follow button, and subscribing to whatever it is you're doing right now, man.
I mean, it's unbelievable that I end the episode with my face all red. I'm matching my shirt now. Great. But obviously, I got to thank you for all those kind words. But just like you said, there's certain people, or there's certain myths out there where you got to do this, you got to do that. But as I say in this podcast, on every single podcast, there's no straight path. There's only your unique path, and how you go about doing that is what you do. You find those interests, you find those strengths. I found mine, and I feel great about it every single day of my life. But Ron, that's the episode. That's the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on here, spreading your wisdom, spreading your experiences. And for everyone out there listening, thank you for tuning in. And always be sure, check us out, lawyersinthemaking.substack.com. Lawyers in the Making, one word, substack.com. And I will see you all in the next one.